Here are 8 tips that you need to know in Procreate. So the first tip is that you can actually change the opacity of gradient maps. I don't know why, but I didn't know this for years. So the second tip is that there are actually differences between blending and blurring brushes. For example, with a blending brush, you have the smudge pull set to anything between 1% and the maximum. And this makes it so that you can blend with the brush and you can push it and pull the colors that are on the canvas already. But if your smudge pull is set to none, you can still technically blend with this brush, but it behaves more like a blur brush. So when you blend with it, it behaves a lot more like a gradient blur. So you don't really have a lot of control over where you're pushing your colors, but sometimes you just want to blur it a little, and that's great for that. I'm gonna use some other colors just to explain the difference maybe a little better. On these top colors, I'm gonna blend them with 50% smudge pull. You can see if I want a smooth gradient, I actually have to use the brush very lightly, like not a lot of pressure, and be very careful. But with the blur brush, you can go wild with it actually. It doesn't matter because it will only blur it. It doesn't matter how wild you go with the pencil because it will always just blur it on the spot. Like you can't push it around. As you can see here with the edge, you can really push the colors out with the blend brush, but you can't do that with the blur brush. And both have their pros and their cons, and they both have their place. So I love both. I use both actually, but for different purposes. The next tip is that any adjustment layer can be just drawn on with the pencil. You don't have to apply it on the whole layer. You can actually use any brush you want to apply the effect. And this is especially cool if you want to maybe change a color of something very specific. You can just draw it on. The next tip is make use of your gestures, and especially with the quick menu. Do you see how many things you can put in there? There are so many actions you can choose from. You can really customize your quick actions. This is how mine is set up, but I have actually multiple quick menus. If you press long in the middle, you can make a new quick menu, and I have them for different purposes. Like there's so much you can do with it. Also, did you know that you can change the position of the sidebar, which is also really cool? Just in case you didn't know that yet, you can just drag it out and you can move it wherever you want. The next tip is about layer gestures. So for example, if you drag with 2 fingers on your layer, you activate alpha lock. And if you swipe with 2 fingers again, you deactivate it again. If you tap with 2 fingers, you activate layer opacity and you can quickly change the opacity of the whole layer. If you hold with 2 fingers, you activate layer select. So you select all the contents of that layer. I actually use that a lot if I want to erase something on another layer, but within the selection of a different layer. My next tip is how you can turn any drawing into a coloring page. The first thing you have to do is turn the saturation all the way down, so it's just a black and white and gray image. And then you go into curves. And this is where all the magic actually begins. This is a rather difficult drawing. It's easier if you have really black outlines and the rest is not as dark, or if you already only have outlines, obviously. The face was already really light, but the hair is really dark and the dark stripes are really dark. I'm just selecting everything that was darker and only adjusting this with the curves adjustment. So what I'm trying to do is get as close as possible to only having the outlines left. And I'm making the face a little darker again because it was too light for me. And then when you're satisfied with what you created, you make a layer below it, but you can see that you can't really draw under it. So what you want to do is make a new layer and fill that with your outline color that you want to choose. And then you want to copy the layer that we just turned into a black and white image and apply a mask to the red layer I just created. And then you're going to paste it by swiping down with 3 fingers and hitting paste. And now click on that layer mask and click invert and then merge the mask to that layer. And now you have only the outlines on that layer. And now you can just color under your line art, and you can change the color of your line art if you want. You can also use this hack on photos, so if you have traditional line art and you want to turn it into digital line art, you can use that hack as well. And lastly, I just want to show you what you can all do with the adjustment layers, because I think you can really spice up your drawing and make it a bit more interesting, because I always forget that you can use adjustment layers and you can do a lot of cool stuff with it, especially if you mix it with drawing with a pencil instead of using it on a whole layer. If you have any more questions about Procreate or my workflow in Procreate, you can drop that in the comments and I'm gonna make a video about it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something and I really hope I see you next time. And if I don't see you again, remember to be kind to yourself and be kind to each other.